Hi, we are from MTG Lab. I'm Eric.
I'm Mike.
And today we'll present you a modern versus video. I will be playing Blue White Red Geist.
I will play Burn. I think I'm a little behind in this matchup, but we will see. I hope you enjoy our video. Okay, so today I'm playing my personal favorite, which is Burn. This deck is way worse right now because of results of the latest Pro Tour. People will now try to play Blue White Red and Melira Pot much more often than before, and these decks are both not good for this deck, but they are beatable. I think that you should still try it. It's fun. At least it's fun when you burn your opponents and they can do anything. Okay, so I will start with the cards that are mandatory in this deck. You just can't build burn without them. These are 4 Goblin Guides, 4 Vexing Devils, 4 Lightning Bolts, 4 Rift Bolts, 4 Lava Spikes, 4 Skull Cracks, and some amount of Short Volleys. These are the cards that you have to play because a burn deck has to have some burn, and there are no other good burn spells in the format that are just red. So the spells that deal 3 damage for 1 mana with no downside, or the Rift Balls, you have to play 4 of them. But Shadow Volleys are a different story. You can't play 4 of them. Maybe you can't even play 3 of them. I'm still testing this. Because when you draw multiples, the problem is that you will sacrifice some lands, and then you sometimes will not be able to cast anything, right? You can't top deck like a 2 mana burn spell after 2 Short Volleys sometimes. So this is something to look out for. This is a trap card sometimes. Also, there are 3 Grim Lava Monsters. They are in the slot of Deathrite Shaman, but there is no Deathrite Shaman anymore, so you have to play something. They are okay, they're not great, they are not as good as Deathrite Shaman was, but they are good enough to play them. Maybe 2 of them is the right amount, maybe 3 of them. You should test to see which answer is correct. So, there are also 3 Searing Blazes, which are very good in some matchups when you are on the play and you can get landfall and destroy a mana dork. You gain so much tempo and card advantage, which in this deck is impossible in any other way, that when you play like a Goblin Guide turn 1, they play a mana dork and then you just Searing Blaze the mana dork, you're way ahead. These are the hands that you look out to. But in some matchups, Searing Blazes are very bad. Like against Storm, when they don't draw Goblin Electromancer, you just don't have any targets, right? Against Blue White Red, you sometimes can just catch the Snapcaster, but then maybe it's so late in the game that you will not have the landfall trigger, or there are problems. So we can't play 4 of them, even though it's a very powerful card. This is why the 4th one is in the sideboard. Bumping the Knights are also a very good burn card. They are the only reason you splash black in this deck, and they are good enough to splash black. Also, Boros Charms, they are 2 mana for damage to the face spells. It seems like this 1 point of damage is not that big of a deal. Like 3 damage or 4 damage is not a big difference, but I think it is. When you draw 2 of them, it's 2 more damage, and there are many games when your opponent is just at 1. So if one of your spells was Boros Charm, you would win. There are many games that are very close when you're playing this deck, and every point of damage counts. The double strike mode of Boros Charm will never come up, but indestructibility sometimes when some opponent plays Maelstrom Pulse against, I don't know, 3 Goblin Guides, you can save them. Sometimes it will work. Okay. Also, there is a 1 Gitaxian Probe. It's here simply because there are no more good burn spells, in my opinion, worth playing in the main deck. And Gitaxian Probe just shortens your deck. And also, the information you get from playing it is pretty valuable. So, there are 19 lands in the main deck. This could be wrong. Maybe 18 is a better number. I'm not sure yet. This is something I will have to test. What I am sure of is that playing 9 and not 8 fetches is more correct. Playing marsh flats in this deck is good because it finds you everything but the basic land. And finding the basic land is usually not an issue. You're just, when you're fetching, you don't consider your life total. You will either be able to kill them very quickly or you won't be able to kill them at all. So as for the sideboard, I play 4 copies of Leave No Trace. Well, if you play Burn, you know that there is one card that annoys you the most, which is Leyline of Sanctity. This is a card that you're basically dead to. So there are 2 possibilities. You can either say, fuck it, Leyline destroys me, I can't do anything about it. But there is another possibility to put in some cards that occupy your sideboard slots and deal with it. So I think that Leave No Trace is actually the best one because it removes multiple ley lines. Also, it is very good against another bad matchup for this deck, which is green-white auras. All of the auras that give lifelink are easily removed with Leave No Trace, which is sometimes a 2, 3, 4 for 1 when they have some ethereal armors, etc. It is very good in this matchup, and I think that Leave No Trace deserves 4 slots. Rakdos Charm. Rakdos Charm is a card that is very, very versatile. It's good against Affinity because it kills artifacts. It's good against Splinter Twin because sometimes they have to, well, most of the times they have to create enough copies so that Rakdos Charm kills them. And also it exiles graveyards, which is good against all the combo decks that need their graveyards, like Storm. Ensnaring Breach is for those crazy players that try to put an Emrakul or Griselbrand in Modern into play. It sometimes happens, and actually, Through the Breach and cards like this are very bad for Burn, because they can resolve on turn 4 or 5 and just destroy you. You can't do anything. Well, when they resolve on turn 5, they're usually dead, but turn 4, turn 3, I don't know. Sometimes it's bad. Griselbrand is unbeatable. Also, it is a very good card against Merfolks, which is the primary reason, to be honest, to play this card. Merfolks play a lot of lords which pump other Merfolks, so when you resolve Ensnaring Breach, they will never attack you again. Never. It's not possible. You will not have enough cards. It's just not possible. Okay, so there is also a 4th copy of Searing Blaze, which I already covered. It's very good in some matchups you want to play for after sideboarding. Stone the Silence is for Affinity, obviously, and some matchups with crazy players who play X. Well, some people try to play X still. So, well, it's basically against Affinity, but sometimes it comes in other matchups. Also, I play 3 copies of Reign of Gore. They are very good against Marillapod because there are many creatures like Scavenging Goose, obviously Kitchen Finks and Spike Feeder, which gain life, and there are only 2 ways for Marillapod to remove this. They usually play just 2 Abrupt Decays. So if you resolve it and they don't have an Abrupt Decay, their combo doesn't work, most of their value creatures are not so good, and then you win the game easily. Also, I sideboard in some copies against Blue-White Red Control. The only card that removes it from their side is like a Singleton Detention Sphere, maybe a postboard Celestial Purge. But if you resolve it, you don't have to worry again about Lightning Helixes or Ajanis. It's not super good, but I think it's worth siding in against Blue-White Red. And also Molten Rain for all the control decks, all the slower decks like Scape Shift, Blue-White Red. It just destroys the land, deals some damage, and slows them down enough so that you can try to win the game.
Hi, today I'm playing Blue-White-Red Geist deck. I decided to play 4 copies of Geist of Saint Raft because I think it's really good against combo decks like Storm or in a mirror match. I mean Blue-White-Red Control. It puts a lot of pressure on my opponent. So as a counter spells I have 2 spell snares to deal with problematic spells like Tarmogoyfs, Scavenging Oozes, and the Snapcaster Mages, 3 mana leaks, and 3 remands. Remands buy a lot of time, sometimes are just a time walk. Also, I have 2 cryptic commands, only 2 because they are very expensive. I'm playing 2 Ajanis, which lock problematic cards like Pod, Birthing Pod, Scavenging Ooze, or Tarmogoyf. Snapcaster Mages are very good in this deck. Obviously, they have a lot of targets, like 4 Lightning Bolts, 4 Helixes, or 4 Puffs. And my removal spell is 8 burn spells, 4 bolts, and 4 Helixes, which gains life, and it's very important in this deck. And 4 copies of Path to Exile to deal with Scavenging Oozes, Tarmogoyfs, or Deceiver Exarch with just huge creatures. So I'm playing only 1 Electrolyze because it's very expensive and it don't kills a lot of things. In my mana base I have 4 Colonnades, which usually kills my opponent, and also it's a dual land, so I really like this card. 2 Tectonic Edges against my opponent's Colonnades, or sometimes to cut out one of his colors. 4 basic lands, 2 islands, 1 plains, 1 mountain, 8 fetch lands in these colors, and 5 shock lands. 4 blue, 2 fountains and 2 steam vents, and 1 sacred foundry. As for the sideboard, I have 2 copies of Rule of Law, which is great against Storm deck, new Ad Nauseam combo, and Living End. 2 copies of Stone Silence for Affinity or Tron decks. 2 Anger of the Gods for Birthing Pod decks or Zoo and Affinity. 1 Negate to deal with combo control decks. Also Counterflux against those decks. Spellskite for green-white auras, Burn, Infect, and Splinter Twin. Rest in Peace for Pod and Storm. Counterflux combo and control. Sowing Salt for Scapeshift and Tron. 1 copy of Combust for Twin, maybe green-white Hateburst or something like that, and for blue-white red to kill Colonnades. 1 copy of Celestial Perch for Jaunt, Burn, maybe Twin. And Werther, which is really good right now in Modern for Twin, Storm, Affinity. It kills Pyromancer Ascension or Defense Grid against Storm deck, and everything for Affinity. So that's all.